and welcome. I'm Tatiana. If you're new here, thanks for listening to the Conscious Diva podcast. Joining me in this episode is Irina Vlada, a psychologist, author, and entrepreneur known for her pioneering work in developing holistic ketamine treatment programs. Irina specializes in psychedelics and addiction recovery, where she merges yogic tools for deeply life-transformative experiences. And please note the experiences expressed in this episode are purely personal and not intended for the recommendation of ayahuasca, ketamine, or any other psychedelic modality. On the pod, we talk about Irina's personal journey from the Himalayan yogic tradition to psychedelics and ketamine, and how psychedelics, spirituality, psychology, and wellness intersect for powerful inner healing. And we also talk about how ketamine and yoga techniques like breathwork can synergize to create a more comprehensive healing experience. And please note, ketamine is not a recreational drug. We also discuss the work of MAPS, the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, researching the healing potential of MDMA and other psychedelics. I hope you enjoy this episode. And if you love it, please give me a review and a like and follow me on Instagram at The Conscious Diva. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being here this morning. It's so nice to chat to you.
Thank you.
I would love for you to begin with sharing your story because when we first met, you were in a very different place in your life and several years ago, and so many things have evolved and that have taken you to this really wonderful place.
When I start to share my journey, I always make an accent on the fact that I do have a journey of an immigrant. So I did arrive to United States 20 years ago, and I was born and raised in Russia. I came to a foreign country, across the ocean, all by myself, and it does define a lot of things. It defines a character in some way. It takes courage, it takes excitement. But being an immigrant who is in a foreign land all alone, and at the time I didn't speak any English, so I think it also brought a lot of challenges. It showed me the deep disconnection that one can experience, disconnection from the family, first and foremost, right? Disconnection from your culture, everything that you know. But I think the deepest challenge that not just me, but many people actually facing and experiencing is a deep disconnection from yourself. So for a long time, I was on this path of self-discovery. And yes, that path never really ends, but there is a certain point of arrival when we do get sense of self. Well, it took me a while. So until we arrive into that place, we feel quite lost. We feel quite challenged. We feel very alone, lonely. And on that journey of search for meaning, search for self, search for truth, I came across very powerful modalities, Eastern wisdom. That is how yoga entered my life and truly carried me through a lot of challenges because, as you know yourself, it is a powerful practice.
Yes.
That can enliven your soul and refine your mind, refine your nervous system. So I've been on a process of personal transformation for quite some time. Somewhere along the way, I did become a self-awareness coach because, of course, I was learning all the tools that now I could share with others, and a lot of wisdom, a lot of studies. And where I am today is even further. I'm in the field of psychology now. I'm doing my PhD research on psychedelic medicine and addiction recovery. So we're looking deeply into the human suffering, right? How to elevate that human suffering potentially through psychedelic medicine, and also a variety of healing modalities that I recommend and advocate for in preparation practices for psychedelic journey, and of course for the integration process. So I would say journey continues, journey of personal transformation continues, journey of education continues, journey of healing and coaching. It goes on, but as of today, there is definitely more anchored, more peaceful state, and where I know who I am, and you can just hug the sense of self, let's say, and you can trust that sense of self. So in this busy and dynamic world, you do know who you are. You become that space for yourself, that home.
I think it's really important for listeners to understand, like so you gave a real snapshot there of your experience, but I could see your transformation over the last several years, 5 years, say, from even the way your whole look has completely shifted and evolved. From your hair was longer and it was blonde, and your whole, the way you styled yourself, the way you presented outwardly was very different to now, and that is a testament to the fact that you've really come back to like your inner confidence, your inner self-love, and you're projecting that, the way you show up in the world is so beautiful. And I think that's so wonderfully reflected in the way your appearance is. You don't need to be for lack of a better description, showing oneself off, because you know who you are. And that comes through in your natural radiance and your intelligence. So I'd love you just to backtrack and maybe talk a little bit more about what yoga did for you initially. You've had this wonderful experience that took you in another direction, and then you also realized there's more, right? Like there's more, which led to your current path.
Yes, yes. And thank you so much for pointing out that it is visible and that the transformation is obvious. And that is a true testimonial, right? Because when things change inside, of course, they're going to project outside. And when we don't know who we are and we don't feel quite at home within ourselves, so what's going to happen? Of course, we're going to look outside, right? Mm-hmm. And in a way, it's normal. So I'm kind of going to share here in parallel with what I learned from yogic tradition. So yes, the way our system is designed, all the senses, right? They help us to look outward and sense the world experience and collect this information, right? Through smell, through visual, through touch, and world is quite beautiful. And, we can get quite distracted in it. So if we don't have an anchor inside, if we don't know our values, who we are, what really matters, right? We can look outside and we can look for validation, confirmation. We can look for things that are, of course, more shinier, grabbing our attention. So I think for quite some time, I was caught in that searching outside, right? And it reflects in your external, of course. It's kind of like, oh, how can I, how I want to be more of this, or I want to be more of that. How can I, instead of improving your inner state, you're working hard on improving your outer look, right?
Yeah, and that's very true for many, many people. And it's not like there's anything wrong with that. It's just that state of mind or being at that point of time.
Exactly. And I think that's where yoga actually came in very strongly. And even like before yoga, I'll start with that suffering state or challenge state, right? That state will force you to look inside. When no matter what you look like or what you have in this material world, it just won't give you the satisfaction. It won't give you the actual meaning that what you're looking for. It doesn't really give you a purpose if it's not aligned with your inner values and your heart. So yoga is an internal practice, right? Yoga is the practice that brings all the senses inward. And through the practice, you begin to discover your inner world. And of course, the very first thing what you discover there, in my case, and I think in many people cases on the transformational journey, it's not a very pretty world inside, no matter how pretty you're trying to be outside, because there are sadness that has been ignored, right? Mm-hmm. There may be anger and frustration and a lot of self-doubt and very opposite experiences that might be of your experience outside. You can have an illusionary confidence and the way you present yourself to the world, but inside you actually feel, again, lonely, broken, doubtful, very weak. So for me, yoga was a practice that gave me the tool to work on that cleansing and refining process first and foremost, right? So we train in the focus through the practice. So we no longer distracted by what's happening outside. We learn to bring that awareness inward with every meditation, with every breathwork practice, with every satsang, with every trip to India, with every training, right? With every book reading. So we bring in that awareness inward, and then we're refining the self-awareness growth, and we learning the true values. We're cleaning. It's like cleaning, deep cleans that is happening within your nervous system and within your consciousness.
It's really challenging for a lot of people to take that deep dive because the struggle is real, and the pain, when we give ourselves permission to feel into the pain, wherever the body's storing it and holding it, and when we finally allow that's when freedom, true freedom of the self, is given permission to arise. But that can be very painful for a lot of people because we as humans have this ability to suppress everything, right? We have this ability to suppress what we no longer wish to feel to keep ourselves safe. So it's both a blessing and a curse, right? But I think you've done this wonderful self-exploration. But it wasn't, you reached this point with yoga where you felt you needed to go deeper and actually explore the assistance of other modalities beyond yoga. So what happened there? What led you down that path of psychedelics?
So I will start by saying that that psychedelics are not necessarily a medicine for everyone, right? And I really want to make it clear.
And
Even
I just want to add to that quickly that also, not everyone goes through these transformations with the yogic practices and then says, okay, I need something else. Yoga's not doing it for me. But there can be moments where an application, a modality of some other assistance can really, because a person may be so locked in their subconscious, so locked in and afraid to let go, that they actually need the guidance and the other tools in a safe and supported environment. So just wanted to add to that.
I appreciate that. Yes, very good. And I was very conflicted at first because being a yogi, we're trying to stay away from any substance. Some people really go to extremes and they don't even drink the coffee. I spent years of restraining myself from alcohol, and I haven't, been eating meat for over 15 years probably. So the yogic practice also comes with the sattvic way of living and eating, and that does represent the lifestyle that is free of substance. So it was a very big conflict for me to even consider something else that will alter your consciousness, not in a natural way, right? Because we can experience the altered states of consciousness through the breath work, through the state of deep meditation, mantra chanting, and even other tantric practices, right? Channeling and so on within the tradition. So at the beginning, it was a lot of personal conflict for me. But what was also present in truth, the level of my anxiety was not subsiding. So at that time, I was already in a yogic practice for almost 10 years, and I do have a very traditional and very consistent practice. So it was also very alarming to me that there's something in my nervous system that is just not quite getting there. Definitely a transformation, definitely a progress, definitely life is more elevated, and you can see the progress and you can see the fruits of all your inner work. But I struggled with a lot of very deep inner anxiety that was at some times, very debilitating in a way. It could be very frightening and paralyzing. So that was the reason, that was the gateway that actually made me consider something else, consider the psychedelics.
I have a quick question around that. When you were feeling the anxiety arise and and I'm assuming here that through your years of the yogic practice, you were able to shed different layers and then at some point realizing, as you just described, this anxiety is still coming up. Were you ever able to connect what was causing anxiety from your childhood or your past, and was that the reason why you needed to use another modality for assistance, or were you unable to pinpoint that at all?
So from what my awareness was at the time and the way I could explain and connect to my anxiety, it was their consistent cycle of survival mode throughout my life. Actually, not necessarily maybe in the childhood, even though I'm sure a lot of things stems from there, but it was traumatic experiences, already in an adult life, and then continue like re-traumatizing and reliving. Like I just couldn't get out of that vicious cycle, right? Like that karmic cycle. And it put me in a state of this constant survival mode where you can't trust, you almost can't trust, you don't trust yourself, you're not connected very deeply, right? And then you don't trust your environment. And therefore it reflects, you don't trust your relationship. I've been through 2 divorces, so you don't really trust the partner that you're in. And then it's a very disconnected and very lonely place. So even when the life would shift and it would give me more safe and pleasant environment, the trauma was still there. So for me to go deeper and heal those traumatic experiences, I had to consider a different medicine.
How were you introduced to psychedelics? Did someone just say, "Hey, why don't you try this?" Or was it something you were considering for some time?
I started with the plant medicine. And what's interesting about the plant medicine, and I experienced that the moment you learn about the medicine, it starts to call you. It calls your soul. It connects with your inner being. And it's just interesting. The ayahuasca plant medicine was my very first medicine. And I've done it with Colombian shaman. I've done it in the United States, but it was in a practice with the Colombian shaman in a tradition, yes, with the Colombian taita, as they call them, in a very traditional way of receiving the ayahuasca medicine. And since I've learned and I've heard the word, it's almost would wake me up at night because it would be like an alarm within my system that everything would just like maybe not scream, but vibrate. And it would be like ayahuasca, 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 ayahuasca. And I was perceived by me that there are answers there, right? And there is a calling there. And there is the comforting understanding that plant medicine does come from the Mother Earth. And it has been used by ancient traditions, right? The native people who actually had very deep relationship with the Mother Earth. So from that understanding, it began to give me a lot of comfort with the medicine. Not every psychedelic medicine is the plant medicine. And unfortunately, in the United States, in the professional world, we only have quite a few. We have ketamine that we can use in the medical setting, right? And it is a psychedelic, but it's not a classic psychedelic. So it's not plant, it's actually a chemical. Mm-hmm. And then right now we have 2 states that did legalize the psilocybin. And psilocybin is the psychedelic component of magic mushroom. So psilocybin actually does represent the plant medicine. And things like ayahuasca, ibogaine, they are plant medicine, but unfortunately, they're not legally and widely available.
Yeah.
And
And the reason for that is because of the way it's I don't want to say produced, but it's a process. It's not like you can package it. It's not like psilocybin we can package literally. It can be in a tablet form or in liquid form. It's not. It's a lot easier to sell, I suppose. Well, ayahuasca is much more traditionally, as you know, something that required a ceremony, and it really still should be that because it's so sacred. And same with the psilocybin. Anything from the plants that are a gift to us to work with should be really honored. And I was going to say consumed, but honored in a very ceremonial and respectful and ritual way. It's not a recreational product that a lot of people just abuse as such.
And the product is very intense too. It has an immense power. Those medicines have an immense power. And what do we know about the power? That power has a potential to heal and transform, but at the same time, that power can be very frightening. It can be very intense. It can be re-traumatizing if our nervous system is not prepared, if our nervous system is not strong enough. And in most cases, it is not, because people who do come to those medicines intentionally, right? They come with mental health challenges, like myself. Some people struggle with anxiety. Some people struggle with depression. Some people struggle with suicidal ideation. People have deep traumas. People have addictions. People have chronic pain. And people are suffering. So, yes, their nervous system is not in the balanced ultimate state. It's not even at the baseline, right? So, the main message and the main out of my personal experience, but also throughout the professional experience that I've been having in the last 5 years now with psychedelic medicine, is that we must focus just as much on preparation and integration process as we're focusing on the psychedelic journey itself. So we can honor our nervous system, our mind, prepare our understanding, and really hold a safe container for ourselves, take care of our body as well, because a special diet needs to come with this to support the journey, right? And afterwards as well. So we want to do this medicine very consciously, so it can support us to shift into more conscious life choices. So we not just doing it mindlessly, either hoping for quick solutions, what can happen sometimes, that's a whole other conversation and challenge, that people do look for magic pill and they just a quick fix, right? But
That's the culture.
yes, unfortunately, yes.
Right?
But we come for this medicine very consciously. So let's take time, right? So let's take time to prepare. Let's take time to understand. Let's take time to lower the expectation and focus on intention, because intention will carry you through. Your intention is not only for the psychedelic journey, your intention for your transformation, for your healing, that will actually be that bridge, right? Through the journey and after, through the psychedelic journey and after.
100%. And said so beautifully, thank you. And it is really critical. And even though I'm going to ask you about you or how you work in a moment, but even when I'm working with my clients and I'm not administering psychedelics, but the intention, as you know, because you've done a session with me, that intention is so critical to unlocking oneself. So share now, how are you integrating because it's been really amazing for you to bring the yogic practice into what you're doing to help the person, help support clients, integrate, help support them before they start taking the medicine, the synthesized medicine, so that they can the ketamine, so that they're able to be in a more grounded, safe space. But first, just share about your experience with ketamine. When did you go from ayahuasca
Yes.
to ketamine?
Yes. Great question. And I think it's a crucial question, because as incredible and eye-opening and heart-expanding experience with ayahuasca I had, it took me quite a few years to integrate and stabilize. And if it wouldn't be for yogic tools, it would be a lot more challenging to integrate the psychedelic experience, because for all the reasons that I'm mentioning, because of the intensity, because of all the openings that are happening, and how much the consciousness can actually expand.
Describe that really quickly before you continue, because I think it's important for people to understand because some people may have had those feelings and don't even realize what they are. Because I mean, you and I know what those feel like, and they can be quite frightening, but at the same time, so expansive, and so many things can happen so quickly. And then also have a delayed effect where then you have because parts of the body, our organs hold and store so many emotions that as we're releasing and unlocking, suddenly you might feel a wave of something, right? So just explain in your own experience what that was like for you.
Yes. So, as I like to talk about the ayahuasca, as I reflect back, even though my intention was to heal the anxiety, but what happens in psychedelic experience is that it's extremely dynamic. So it gives you so much information, so much happening in like split seconds, right? So we can never even remember everything that happened in our psychedelic journey. So what happens afterwards is that you can be extremely overwhelmed with everything that you've just seen and experienced, and even your desire to remember it. And one of the integration practices are journaling, because we're trying to get things, in like into our memory, in like we want to embody as much information as we can, but I don't think it's actually possible because of the expansion that is
Mhm.
happening through the medicine, right?
Yes.
So the benefits and the healing components that I've experienced, I went through my own rebirth experience from my mother's wound. I've seen the ancient civilizations coming and going. So understanding that uncertainty and impermanence of reality was very powerful for me, right? So you can kind of, if you truly understand the concept of impermanence, you understand the wisdom in it, that there is really no still or anchoring moment, right, in this dynamic universe, in this existence, it can give you a sense of peace in a way, and you can start to make peace with the uncertainty and find your own flow with the dynamism of life that is happening around you. So that was very powerful lesson for me as well. I've also experienced going quite not just out of my body, but maybe out of the existing universe, as wild as it sounds. And it was very foreign for me out there. And for the first time, I actually desired nothing else but being back in this particular body experience. I just had chills, and it made me emotional because through the suffering, you ready to quit. You don't have meaning. You don't have an anchor. You don't value your own life because your life doesn't feel good to you. So you're almost like betraying your own self and all the God's gifts and all the chances that you have in this beautiful life because you don't see it. You don't see an opportunity. You don't see the abundance, right? You don't see the beauty of this nature. So for me to lose all of it and being in some, I'm showing like I'm doing the far away space, but of course there is no distance, there is no time, and
It's like
necessarily.
it's like in the lack of awareness, our
Yes,
awareness comes.
correct. And I desired nothing else but come back. So my journey of coming back into the body was through my own rebirth experience. Like, and I either it was a new rebirth or maybe it was a memory of my initial birth, as I was in my mother's womb as an embryo, and then actually coming through the birth channel and grabbing the earth, because we were the ceremony was outside. We were on the mats on the ground, and it was in the middle of the night. And for me, with my bare hands, grabbing the earth and smelling the earth, the soil, right, and touching the grass and having this earthly embodied experience was the most meaningful thing that I couldn't even dream about. So ayahuasca was able to show me this and give me the life meaning back. That was a benefit. But the all this beautiful dream and all these amazing sensations go away very quickly. And you shrink back into the same body, and that leftover of your initial suffering is still there. So nobody is canceling that. Nobody's canceling anxiety. Nobody's canceling depression. But now you have this grand understanding of reality and existence, right? So
Mhm.
what are you going to do with it? And instead of eliminating anxiety, you can actually get even more overwhelmed. And without a proper tools that can ground you even deeper, that can refine your nervous system, that can stabilize your breath. And through the deep breath experiences, we can actually imitate in a way, or experiencing the expanded states of consciousness again, maybe not to that extent, or maybe so, right? Like it depends on your personal practice and the depth and the power that you put into your practice. So that's why yoga was a crucial component. So to me, psychedelics can quite not exist without yoga. And I know that might sound a little revolutionary, not every yogic person will agree with that, and that's okay, and that's perfectly fine, because like I said, this journey is not for everyone. But for people who do choose the psychedelic medicine, they do need an additional support. And I do want them to know this, because I was blessed was being introduced to a yogic tradition. I was blessed with my travels to India, to one of the most profound sites where I could be with the source of wisdom, with our teacher, and safe and trusted source that could actually give me also the amazing support, give me the tools. But not everybody have that.
It's true. And also with yoga, as it's mostly taught in the West, it's asana. So it's just a physical practice. And there's some teachers that are also including pranayama, breath work, but a majority, especially if you go into a very Western style gym to a yoga class, it's likely it's not going to be that deep or expansive. You may feel something. That's not true for everybody. I'm generalizing, of course, but when you explore, and if you feel that pull and you can explore something deeper, those practices, the asana is really designed to tonify the body for us to be able to sit in meditation for hours and hours. It's not this body sculpting practice, right? That a lot of people use it as. And that's totally fine, of course. But the practice you're talking about is really amazing. Those tools of the breath, of the kriyas, of the movement, these action-orientated, very unblocking practices are incredible, and they are designed to stabilize the nervous system. They also will radically shake the nervous system, right? And make you feel things you've never felt before. But then, as you've talked about, this integration, the really important. This is a massive point. So just talk about now how you then were exposed to ketamine.
Right. So I worked with Colombian shaman for quite some time, and it was profound experiences, as I shared.
Well, how many times did you do ayahuasca firstly? Was it because that's not something you go and do every weekend?
No, it's not. I would say I had around 10 ceremonies in a 3-year period. So yes, that's not something you do every weekend because of the intensity of the experience. Yes. But the ketamine I was introduced to through professional work, because after the ayahuasca experiences and combining it with the yogic tools, I started to coach people who went through similar journeys. And ketamine companies, telemedicine companies, they came very popular because a lot of people who struggling with mental health challenges, they don't have access to plant medicine again, like that's another thing. Not people don't have access to that, so because they're not widely available and they're not legal in a system. The beauty of ketamine is that the medicine is extremely safe and it is legal in medical industry. So, and that was my connection to ketamine, that you can actually trust the medicine. It works in a very short period of time. The session is a lot shorter. So we're speaking of 1 hour to an hour and a half versus psilocybin is 6 hours to 8 hours. Ayahuasca can be up to 12 hours. Ibogaine is up to 72 hours. So those are very deep, intense experiences, right? So ketamine, within 1 hour to 90 minutes, you have a very similar experiences to psychedelic experiences. You can have the out-of-body experience. You're definitely becoming an observer because you get into a dissociated state. You also can connect deeply, even though you're in an observant state, but you still have an opportunity to connect to certain insights, to connect to the old memories, to receive realizations as you're actually observing, your inner environment, your inner state of consciousness. So I was introduced to ketamine through a professional work. And I think first time in about, like 4 years ago, 5 years ago. And in about uh, just in a period of 1 year, a year and a half, I've talked to almost 200 people, like a lot of people who went through ketamine journeys as an integration coach. And I've seen a tremendous amount of potential of that medicine. What doesn't necessarily save you or heal all your challenges, but it does give you a step forward. It does give you an opportunity to progress. It does give you a window through which you have a neuroplastic state. You're able to shift your consciousness. You're able to shift your awareness. Your self-awareness expands, of course, in any of those journeys. And you have this window of an opportunity when your mind is less dense. And I think that's one of the most important thing, like how ketamine actually works. It helps to shed a few layers, right, of that dense consciousness. Some limiting beliefs that we are so locked in, or we have some traumatic memories and we're defined by them. We create this story around them. And ketamine, just like, it doesn't necessarily heal the trauma, but it's going to unlock a few things, and you're going to feel more grounded. You're going to feel more spacious in your physical body, more spacious in your mind. And from that space, if you do have a proper integration, you have a way higher opportunity to create change.
What do you say to people that think that it's addictive? There's been celebrities in the news that have died, but they are obviously getting it in a very different setting to going to a center where it's being safely administered. So I would just love you to talk to those points, because ketamine use, while legal in some states, there's still a lot of stigma around it.
Yes, and the stigma does come from, unfortunately, the people's experiences who are using it unintentionally. And ketamine does have a stigma of being a party drug, what personally is extremely challenging for me to understand, because when we say party, we want, we envision something dynamic, maybe music festival, maybe, going out. And ketamine is the medicine that is anesthetic. Like, it puts your body into a deep rest, and you actually, you have to have a safety measure for ketamine journeys that we administrate, that you need to be in a very safe environment and don't move, because you're very wobbly, right? You're not stable at all. So it's very important to be either in a chair or on a couch in a horizontal position, but not in the movement. So this I could never quite understand how people actually use it in a party scene. But I think what happens is that they mixed ketamine with a lot of other things, right? So they do mixed stimulants that are more of a dynamic drug and has a dynamic effect on you, with the ketamine that gives you more of that disassociated experience. So when that mixture happens, it becomes extremely unsafe, because ketamine is chemical, it's not a plant medicine. So then it mixed with other chemicals, and then it affecting your brain chemistry, it affecting your body chemistry, and anything can happen from that. It's like completely unpredictable because it's completely unsafe.
Well, you said the word disassociation. And so I think for maybe somebody who's depressed or experiencing already a level of disassociation from themselves and awareness, to then take ketamine or a ketamine-like product, as you just described in a party scenario, I can understand how that can then they might be addicted or drawn to wanting to continue with that process because they are very much already perhaps living in a state of disassociation from themselves without even realizing it, right? Without even having the awareness of that. Which again comes back to the practice of yoga. When we can do these yogic practices and integrate, we're able to come back to the self, right? But the truth of who we are, which then puts us in a place of being able to associate with all of our issues, all of our problems, and understand where they come from. So can you talk to this point a little bit more and really expand on what integration does for you?
Yes. So that is quite a true to what you're saying, that even outside of a party, even with an intentional use, ketamine can give you a sense of relief, right? That if someone is in a deep state of suffering, they can have a sense of relief. And when the moment people have a sense of relief, they want to repeat that, right? So people are not focusing on doing an actual heavy lifting and work through integration, and I'll get to that, right? And do the processing and working with the coach or working with the therapist. They just now potentially want an escape that they experienced in ketamine. The thing is, the ketamine is very short lasting. So even if that addictive thought will be there, but ketamine it's a 1 hour journey. So even if you want to repeat it, like how often you're going to repeat it, you can't be in that state for extended period of time like that you can increase the dose, what will be detrimental to your body, and even with the increase of the dose, you're not going to prolong the state. And unfortunately it can happen. That's why in a medical setting we go through a very deep screening. So people do meet with the doctor and go through questionnaire. So we're trying to screen people with the potential of certain things, but of this addictive pattern challenges. And even though ketamine actually also have been known for treating addiction itself as well, if people have addiction with other substances, because if it is done intentionally, even though it's going to give that relief for you, but if you there intentionally and you work with the coach or a therapist and you begin to integrate your insights or your ketamine experiences into your regular life, you begin to feel relief in your life. And that's the magic that needs to happen. So not that unconscious relief that we can have, in the journey itself, but the actual embodied experience, of elevating the suffering and integrating the insight into your life, embodying the new knowledge so you can actually create a real change in your life. But we have to continue to monitor who get prescribed, how they get administered, how often they come to see the doctor. All of those things still have to be monitored. Yes, I agree.
And so how do we integrate? How would a person who's not familiar with what that word even means, what does that experience feel like?
So for me, integration is embodiment, right? So integration is not only related to psychedelics.
Mm-hmm.
We can integrate any experience, right?
And in yoga too, there's a lot of people who
And
don't
yoga too. Yes, we
yeah,
have to integrate, exactly, because medicine will shake things up just like yoga can, right? We're going to have a lot of new insights in our awareness, and we need to process this. We need to embody this. We need to go through different modalities, but one of the most important one, I think, is a talk therapy to process actually your experience and connect your experience to your intention. So we're kind of like looking, well, it's not necessarily back. I feel like intention is more of a northern star. So let's look up again, to connect to the intention, but then also connecting to the next step forward. So this beautiful connection that is happening. So we're not just mindlessly administered, psychedelics. We have an intention. we have a purpose, we're working on something, and either we got the insight or not, we definitely had a certain body experience. We definitely, that is definitely takeaways from any psychedelic journey. So coaching will help us to process it verbally, but I think there are a lot of practices that also help us to integrate it on a somatic level. So that's where the Kriya Yoga comes in. That's where breath work comes in. That's where cold therapy comes in, because we have to continue to strengthen the nervous system, anything that's strengthening the nervous system, and more mindful life choices through that connection with our intention and what is the next step forward. So this step-by-step process where we begin to embody, either it's a new version of me or a new pattern that I desire to implement in my life, right? New way of showing up in life, releasing the old story, identifying with the new story of who you are and who you desire to be, relationship as well. If you're moving away from a broken, challenging, toxic relationship, great. Who do you choose to be? How do you choose to show up? So psychedelic can give you an insight, a certain experience, a certain healing, but then the integration process is like, what are you going to do with it? How are you going to integrate? What is going to be your day-to-day, step-by-step commitment to become that person, right? That you had the glimpse to feel or to meet in your journey.
How are you now teaching people? So you're a coach. What do you do as a coach? Where are you working? And what are you studying? You mentioned you're getting your PhD.
Yes, yes. So I've been actually a virtual coach for quite some time, and I do love that part of technology era that we all live in, because it's a great flexibility, not only for myself, but also for my clients. What is very interesting, like during COVID, when everything and everyone went online, right? Even the meditation and the yogic practice went online. Even the yogic training with Himalayas, when we couldn't get to India, everybody went online, including the yogic masters, right?
Oh,
So,
yeah. My teacher, he's a 27th generation Nepalese shaman. We were doing fire ceremonies online. I still had to get all the things, but we would do them. Yeah.
magic, right? But
Oh, yeah.
if we understand the energies, then that's no problem, right? We connect no matter what, and then it gives us this opportunity to connect, but at the same time it's really convenient for everyone. So that I do work online, and I travel quite a bit personally. As you know, I do have a home in Miami, but I spend some time in Middle East right now. So even there is a time difference, but I see the clients on Zoom. What I do have in person is the medical practice and the Dr. Michelle Winner, who I collaborate with. So for the medical practice is a little bit different. You still you with the medicine, you do need to be in the present. So when the person actually have the journey itself, so it does happen in the physical location. It happens at the Ketamine clinic. And Dr. Michelle Winner, she has quite a few. She has 4 locations in South Florida. So it depends on conveniency, of the client, which one is more convenient for their home address, I would say.
You can also monitor the person and then they get to have a more full experience.
Absolutely. And the preparation can happen online, right? But of course, the ketamine journey itself has to be in person and as safe as possible. And I think that feeling of safety is not always defined by just a safe environment, what is of course important, but I think it's the level of connection that has happened, right? So if I work with someone in a preparation process, in a coaching process, and that does happen virtually, and that's fine. But we establish a connection, we establish a relationship. So when we meet in person for a ketamine journey, a person actually feels like they have this great support. They have their coach, they have the nurse, they have the doctor, they have the medical team. So I believe that whole preparation process is not only educational and again, like prepping of the nervous system, but it's also a relationship building. So we're building that safety, we're building that connection. And that is something that is very nurturing and very important to enter. Like, it gives you that sense of safety, and you can be more relaxed, more calm, more present. So then you're entering the psychedelic journey from a very different state.
That's really beautiful to hold them in that safe environment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And is that clinic, are those clinics associated with MAPS at all? Like if you went onto the MAPS website and looked up
So
clinic, I mean,
we very connected, with maps, but not like business is not associated. But we've done some events together, and Dr. Michelle is connected with Rick Dublin, and they in communication, and we always support one another, speak at the conferences. And so yes, everybody as a community, I would say, working on a same mission, advocating for the power of psychedelic medicine in intentional clinical use.
so what does MAPS stand for?
MAPS is the Multidisciplinary Association of Psychedelics, and they do support a psychedelic community at variety of the angles. So they are lobbying in a more of a political sense of things, but they're also raising money and supporting clinical trials and the multiple clinical trials. The most recent one is done with the MDMA. So we are working hard on approving MDMA medicine for treatment of PTSD and depression, people with deep, deep, deep trauma.
Your PhD, what are you studying?
Yes, my PhD is going to be a research on addiction recovery and psychedelics, and specifically focused on preparation and integration process. So my question is how the psychedelic medicine impact the addiction recovery, people with deep traumatic experiences and spiritual disconnection, emotional disbalance, right? And if psychedelic medicine actually have a potential to heal and transform people who are deeply suffering and deeply troubled by addiction.
Yeah, well done. And how can people find you? Where you've got a few different things happening, and you've also you lead retreats or you organize them, right?
Yes, it's true. So since I am Miami based, we do have quite a few consistent events going on in city of Miami that are more of an educational psychedelic events that are actually combined with the yogic practices. So I love to have a psychedelic panel that is providing information and can answer any questions, but at the same time, I like to show people a practice of mindfulness, breath work, and meditation to help them to understand why those modalities are important for preparation and integration process. Since the September of the last year, we have a 9-month program at this standard spa and hotel in Miami, quite magical space, very famous spot in Miami and very loved by many. So it's fun to actually do the day retreats. We're doing a day retreat. So you spend 90 minutes with us, you're educating, you're practicing, and then you have access to the spa with the sound healing to continue to integrate now the information and your personal experience. We do lead ketamine retreats as well. Those are not as frequent, but there is also an opportunity to have a private ketamine retreat here in Miami as well. That's a more of a complex process because, again, as I mentioned, all the medical screening that is happening and the meeting with the doctor, the whole preparation process that would happen prior. So it is a possibility, but we have to be in a more of a deeper work and contact in a working relationship together versus the retreat at the standard spa. You can just show up, once a month and learn some stuff and experience some yogic tools.
That's
And
cool.
a lot of fun. Yes. And you can find me on Instagram and on LinkedIn, one of my mission now as well. So how can we continue to support people who are in a challenged position, because the one most important thing that helped me to move forward is just you don't quit. You just don't quit. You don't have an option to quit. You show up no matter what. And even if your way of showing up is just being like this and bad, then be like this and bad. But you don't quit. You don't quit this life. You know, you continue to be courageous. It does take courage. I think this life is quite intense. You know, and it takes courage to
show up.
to see through. Yeah, show up even when you don't have a strength or faith or purpose. So you have to keep looking for that internally.
Yes, it's in here, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. So you have a website. Is it Breathwise? Is that it? Or you
My
not?
website is breathwise.co.co, and my Breathwise website have some information about my coaching practice, and also an opportunity to book a session and connect with me through the website as well. Yes.
Well, thank you so much. It was wonderful to chat to you. It's awesome. And, I just think that you've shared some really wonderful wisdom. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you for having me. It has been a blessing to know you. It has been a blessing to be in a personal session with you through your gifts and talents. And it has been just a joy to see your smile. So thank you so much for giving this opportunity and hearing what I have to say.
Thank you so much. And you're welcome.